facility nice and clean again. We brought the pressure washer in and it's cleaned up all the grime. And now that our canola is just about done, another 2 days in the field, and we should be done with that. Back to the bees. I have another 2 rounds of feed to make, and that should get them up to weight. They are taking some of that syrup and they are turning it into brood. You know, about a football size. I mean, it's nice. It's mid-20s. We haven't had a frost yet. It's almost October, and we have pollen coming in. So it's, you know, they're making that little stutter step late into fall, which will provide lots of nice little young bees. But at the same time, you know, double-edged sword, right? I need to be able to get that box full of syrup, but I also need to have all the mites exposed so I can kill them. Just about ready to go to bring the bees in for winter. It'll be another 3-4 weeks and I'll start bringing them in. I'm going to test out the cooling system just to make sure everything's, you know, correct. Bring the guy in for maintenance. And then after Thanksgiving, think about starting to poke some yards in. On my way to the next field to speed disc. Happened across one of my bee yards and I can't help myself. It's been quite a few days since I've been in with my bees. Just going through withdrawal. Gotta get my fix. Things are going very well. We have finally finished the canola. Whew. It was quite the push. I kid you not. We were 1 rain away from losing the crop to sprouting. Everything we had was standing. I think we had about 1,000 acres or so. And we just had that week long of rain and fog and warmth. And unfortunately, some of the neighbors that had some swath canola lost to sprouting. But luckily, we had this nice weather follow through and we were able to take advantage of it, complete advantage of it. We're done the canola now. We're just on the last of the late wheat, which is actually yielding and looks really good. The sample is excellent. And Adam hand thrashed some sunflowers, which the sample is testing dry. But the plant is still wet, so we have to wait for another week. We had dropped some desiccant down on it just to hurry up the dry down because surprisingly, we haven't had a frost yet. Like we're pushing into October here and we haven't had a frost. I'm looking 10 days out. My goodness, it's just incredible weather we're having right now. And such a swing. It's, talk about whiplash. So we'll be into the sunflowers in about a week. I bet you he's going to be pushing into the sunflowers to get into it because it's becoming, we're getting to that point of vulnerability where the head's drying down in this wind. You know, those heads just kind of sway back and forth, and when they start touching, we get seed loss to shatter. So we got to push it. That's why we desiccate the crop, just to help with that plant dry down, especially when we haven't had a killing frost. And without that killing frost, the same with the corn. It's taking a sweet ass time to dry down. It's like testing 32% right now with some hand thrashed cobs, but that's not going to take long. Get down to around that 23-24%, we'll be thrashing that too, getting it through the dryer, getting things wrapped up. Good crop out there. We just have to reach out and grab it. But I am wanting to see what my Varroa shakes are still. I brought my suit and my sample can here. I just want to see where we're at, because where I left them last, before I stepped into the combine and the tractor, I was shaking zeros. I was fretting all the beginning of September as my counts went from 0 through Labor Day up to 2, 3, 5%, started freaking out. So with my Apivar treatment and my Api-Life VAR treatment within the colony, the counts are still creeping up. I pulled the pin and we did a couple rounds of oxalic acid, and within days it purged the mites from these colonies. So I mean, that was because of the oxalic acid, but what's also going on in these colonies is the remaining brood nest plus a re-established brood nest as we're going to heavy feeding here, as we're pumping the syrup to them there, and this warm weather and the pollen still coming in. And that brood nest, we have a football-sized brood nest within a lot of these colonies, especially the nests that requeened middle to late August. I had a lot of colonies go through a supersedure, and they have taken the queen and they are laying. So those nests still have a little chunk of brood going on inside, which is going to make a terrific little spring nest. But that's where this varroa mite migration might be going on, and maybe that's what I'm seeing with my all of a sudden low mite count. All of a sudden it corresponded to my oxalic acid vaporization treatments, so those zeros are legitimate. It's just what's happened over the last 10 days since I've been in them. So I'm going to pick a couple random colonies here, and we are going to do a wash and see what is up. See what kind of nest we got going on here. Oh, got a box of bees. They're getting up to weight. It's quite heavy. I'm gonna give them a little bit more though. There's the little chunk of brood here. Very well defined chunk of brood. Box of bees. That is one hell of a chunk. Oh, there's a queen right there. This is all brood. Holy moly. Same on this side. Just a beautiful queen. One of my queens. Chunk of brood. This side's finishing off. They're opening this up. There's some eggs in there. This is what I mean about a football-sized nest of brood still. And this is where the problem lies. Well, this is good. This is like, these are going to be April bees. This is going to last well into May. These little bees here. But it's the mites that underneath those cappings. That's my concern. I want it both ways. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. And they still have there's some drone brood going on of all things, you know. Mites under those, I betcha. Can't spend too much time fiddling here. I've got to get back to the field work. Oh, that's heavy. And that's a box of bees. There's a nice little chunk of brood. These guys are very well fed. Same on this side. We have some newly established brood going on. They're just going to keep on chugging as long as this pollen's coming in. Okay, let's see what we have here. Let's see what we have. Oh, my arm. I need one of those little shaking devices. So that's about 2 minutes of shaking. That is a bee stinger. Zero. This yard was monitoring 5% earlier on in September, and I mean, it got to a point where I'd take a sample and then there'd be mites on the bottom with hardly any shaking, and I quit shaking because I didn't want to count any more mites. So I'm calling them a 5. And now I'm calling it a 0. Which makes me feel really good. So I rest a little bit easy again as I spend another week on the tractor and ignore these bees for another week. We're gonna get some more feed on them. I'm gonna send it around. And then probably do a few cleanup oxalic acid treatments as prescription in the first week into the second week of October. And by that time, I'll be pointing them towards the winter shed.